Welcome to the Sooners 360 Recruiting Podcast, a podcast for OU recruiting fans by Sooners 360. Each week we catch you up on the latest in OU recruiting news and provide opinions and evaluations on all things OU football recruiting. I'm Chris Mason, lead recruiting analyst for Sooners 360. This podcast is now sponsored by Sooners 360 on Patreon. To support this podcast, please go to patreon.com/Sooners360817 and click subscribe. It's only $2 a month, and there's also a free trial option for you to give it a whirl. I'm posting my recruiting content there on a fairly regular basis. The link is also there in the show notes. Also, this podcast is now part of the Believe podcast family. Every team, every topic, everywhere. I'm also appearing on the Horns Down podcast YouTube channel discussing OU season and off-season OU news. Please like and subscribe to that YouTube channel as well. Just search for Horns Down Podcast and you'll find it. This is episode 117, Official Visits Get Confirmed. I'd like to apologize. We've been down for a couple of weeks. I was out of town and I've had a family emergency last week, which I meant to get a podcast up, but it really just threw my time, and my time completely had to be focused elsewhere with a serious family situation. Everything's good there now. Everything's on the mend, but that's why I've been down for 2 weeks, and I apologize about that. So let's move to the recruiting news. First off, there's no commit news. OU does not have any commits, and no top 50 OU targets have committed anywhere else. So no one's really off the board, so to speak, of targets I think OU had a legitimate shot at. OU is in the top 3 or 5, 4. So no losses there. But we have had some positive forecasts to OU, primarily from the Rivals OU site and from Rivals national writer Sam Spiegelman. The first one is we've got KJ Ford forecasted to OU again, the Duncanville defensive end. Lots of positive news there about his interest level in Oklahoma. So several of the writers on that site on OU Insider and both their regional or national guy put in a forecast for OU. He's decommitted from A&M for a couple of weeks. Ryan Gilbert has also been forecasted to OU, the cornerback from Mesquite Horn High School in the Dallas area. Lamont Rogers, the offensive tackle who just went to A&M, his teammate, and he was also committed to A&M. So he's now decommitted, and he's getting forecast to OU. It looks like OU made a good move there. He's a cornerback, 5'11", 175 range, good speed, good coverage skills, with a cornerback weak group in Texas and in state and sort of regionally, and with OU not really finding their way with any national cornerback targets potentially. This could be a big pickup. This fills a slot. OU obviously added 3 big corners last year, so OU didn't need huge cornerback depth in this class. So Ryan Gilbert being forecasted to OU is a big move because I think OU only needs 2 guys. And if Gilbert was one, that only leaves OU having to find one more, which I think is completely possible with the targets that are out there. Then we have the 2 wide receivers, 2 names not going to be new to anybody on this podcast, Miles Azure and Mason James, both longtime targets for the Sooners, both being projected to OU. That would make the wide receiver room fairly interesting. Mason James, is getting a lot of attention from a lot of different places. I just want to check something here. I keep doing this. I keep reversing his name. It's sorry to the Miles family. It is Algier Miles, not Miles Algier. I keep reversing that. I apologize to them. I've done that now twice. I don't know why. He's been, a big time target for OU for a while. So it's Aljor Miles, the wide receiver from Kaufman, and Mason James, obviously the wide receiver from Norman North. So both of those guys have been targeted to OU. If OU got them in addition to Odom, the wide receiver from California that's currently verbaled, that would give OU 3 wide receiver targets, nice mix of personalities, and 3 guys I think Aljor Miles is potentially a top 100 player physically. He's just got all the gifts. Mason James he's going to be underranked. He just will be. But when the 2 most logical comparisons and comps that just scream off film are Sterling Shepard and Ryan Broyles, I don't really give a crap about where other schools what the services are going to rank him. If he's anywhere near as successful as Ryan Broyles or Sterling Shepard in college, and hopefully that's at OU, I don't really care where they're going to rank him. But Mason James is like those guys. He's very much that kind of elite playmaker. Has those kind of elite skills. But if you had the Odom, Miles, and James be looking for just one more wide receiver, OU has some big time targets that could fill that. We'll mention a new offer OU made for 2026 wide receiver that's a little interesting. But those are the new forecasts that have gone the Sooners' way. Those 4 guys are old players. I had in my class prediction for February that you could have read on my Patreon site. I have a March class prediction obviously coming up in a couple of days. Not to steal any thunder, all 4 of those guys will be in that class prediction. So if those 4 guys fell OU's way, along with the guys that OU has currently committed, that would be a good group. That's 8. That would be 8 players that that's a really solid group right there. So I mentioned official visits get confirmed as the title, and we kind of had a flurry of official visit news over the last week or so. So let's just kind of recap it. The first big visit news that just sort of hit the waves the last day or 2 is newly minted 5-star Felix Ojo, at least by On3. I think they have him as the number 10 player in the nation. And I think he's going to end up as a consensus 5-star offensive tackle. He looked that good at a recent camp. He's just filling out. His frame's filling out. He's becoming more and more consistent in sort of the technique of being an offensive tackle. And he's already got the frame, an elite 5-star frame and athleticism. I mean, he's 6'7", moves faster than someone, more agile than someone his size should be able to. And he's got a huge frame to add weight. So I think he's probably, I don't know what he's currently listing at, but let's just say he's 6'7", 280, 285, something like that. He's easily got the frame to add good weight and be 310, 315 and be just an absolute handful for pass rushers, defending quarterbacks, being the traditional quarterback protector on the left tackle side of it. Exactly what you need in the SEC or in the playoffs going against pass rushers from all over the country. So he's now committed to taking an official visit June 20th, OU's big weekend. And that's his last official visit that he's got on the books. He can obviously take more, but that's when the June window expires. Obviously, he can take more visits in the fall if he wants to different places. But OU's going to get an official visit, and they're going to get the last shot at him. Now, most services and most sites have been projecting him to go to Texas or Ohio State. Which makes a lot of sense since Texas and Ohio State both missed out on elite 5-star offensive tackles in last year's recruiting class. Really the only blemish on both of those classes, to be honest. Texas missing out on both Michael Fasusi, Lamont Rogers, and Ty Haywood. Just didn't get an elite Texas offensive tackle. So, and Ohio State, for all of the players that they did add, they did miss a little bit on the O-line. Didn't get an elite O-lineman last year. So they're both going all out for Ojo. And he hasn't been in Norman in a while. So now part of that's pretty explainable that he said he wasn't going to OU for a while, that he'd been to OU so many times. And by my count, he was on OU's campus in 2024 about 5 or 6 times. Went to several games. He camped at OU. He visited OU a number of times. So, he knows OU. Bill Biedenbauer was really the first big time offensive tackle, big offensive line coach to make an offer. Offered him before he camped at OU. Actually, OU offered him in their March Future Freaks event when Ojo was first back on campus. And OU has sort of steadily, I don't want to say they built a lead, but they've been building a relationship with him far longer than Ohio State or Texas. So if he eventually does take that last OU official visit and OU builds some recruiting momentum going into that visit, I think, the easy odds are to say he's going to Texas, right? They need an elite left tackle. And Felix, can probably just look at Oklahoma and see either Michael Fasusi and or Ryan Foji in his way. And this doesn't appear to be the same caliber of tackle prospects from Texas in last year's class. So, they don't have the same problem. But again, he's, Bill Biedenbauer, has the development credentials that players look for at offensive tackle. There's a good chance, I think, Michael Fasusi has a big spring. So, and make some noise at left tackle, especially with the injuries to Logan Howland and with Jake Sexton rehabbing to some degree. I'm not really sure on his injury status, but if I was OU, I wouldn't really have Jake Sexton out there too much. I'd make sure he's getting ready for the fall. So I think there's every chance that he could see Michael Fasusi being developed if he makes his way to Norman this spring. And maybe that helps OU. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. It's hard to say. But, Felix has a long-time relationship with Bill, the longest relationship. OU's had the longest connections with him. And as he's visited OU the most. So can that spin around late summer? I don't know. We'll see. As long as he takes the visit, I think it's a visit that should scare Ohio State and Texas to a degree. And let's remember this time last spring, in the February-March timeframe, Michael Fasusi was going to Texas. Folks somehow thought that Ty Haywood was going to Oklahoma and that Lamont Rogers was going to A&M or Missouri. So you never know. Things can certainly change up. You never know if, last year Texas really tanked Michael Fasusi's visit. OU had a fantastic visit with him. So, could the same thing play out? Probably not. Texas will probably learn from that mistake in terms of what they did. But, it wouldn't surprise me if Oklahoma is a little more of a factor in this when it comes to decision time and maybe puts a little bit of a scare in Ohio State and Texas. I would say Texas, might be the front runner there. We'll see. He obviously, there's a couple of predictions in for that, but we'll see how things shake out. Then we have another 5-star guy, Caden Hall. He's a 5-star on 3 safety, an elite-looking safety, everything that you'd want. He's also taking his final visit to Norman on June 20th. And Hall's already been on campus. He's made a connection with Brandon Hall. He likes what OU has done with their safeties and developed the recruiting their safeties. He's an elite-looking guy. Hopefully this visit happens and OU's able to follow this battle, because this would be the kind of guy that you add to the OU safety room and you're just building upon talent upon talent. OU doesn't need to take too many safeties in this class, probably 2 again and at least 1 true cheetah. I think that's probably where OU is. But, Caden Hall at safety would just give you just another elite player, another elite connection in the safety room that Brandon Hall has been just, stacking with guys. Already the 2 guys already who've enrolled early, Amarian Robinson and safety from Arkansas, whose name's escaping me right now. The other safety from Arkansas, his name's escaping me. They're both on campus, and OU obviously had the stars from last year. So I think Caden Hall fits right in with that group. Right now, we have Jaden O'Neal with a June 20th visit as well. Presuming he's OU's quarterback, and presuming he's OU's quarterback verbal heading into that, he'll be the ringleader for that Barbecue U event. He's a gregarious personality. I've interviewed him. I'm a little biased there. Jaden's a great kid, and if he's still connected with OU, and that's where OU's going at quarterback, I just don't see how OU could pull off the two quarterback thing, not with Bo Bentley being ranked in the top 50 by On3. So, I mean, something's going to shake out there. But right now, Jaden O'Neal is set to visit OU on the 20th. And if he is, he kind of will be the ringleader. I think the quarterback trying to build a great OU class. The next two names are June 6th visitors, and they've confirmed that through various sources. And the first name is a name I've been talking about a lot. If you follow me on Twitter, you know I've been pumping this guy up. I love him. I love his film. He just got re-ranked and put in the top 50 range. I think he's a five-star linebacker. It's Sinceri Johnson from Ohio. June 6th is when he's going to visit. OU is in his final five, probably trailing Bama and Ohio State based upon recent interviews with On3 and rivals. But OU's got time to make that up, and I think OU has time to maybe make Sinceri realize he's the real focus for OU at linebacker. OU's a linebacker-centric defense. OU's got time to get Danny Stutzman drafted, for Kip Lewis to get on some old SEC first or second teams, and for OU to really explain that OU's a lot of defenses may not make the linebackers as stars, but Brent's defense needs superstars at linebacker. So I think OU's got a chance there to erase some distance and maybe pull off a shocker, but it's gonna be tough because Johnson's that talented and has connections, obviously, to Ohio State, and has some Bama family connections. Then we have linebacker Talona Ely from California. He's also visiting June 6th. I love his film. He's sort of a top 50, borderline five-star as well. Those are the two best-ranked linebackers I've seen with OU official visits in a long time. OU's in his final seven. Oregon, obviously, is Oregon and USC are probably the regional favorites. He's been to OU. He was at OU last fall. He was in town, I believe, for the Alabama game, I think, or it might have been the main game. I'm not sure. But again, OU has time to make them a focus. Make Talanoa realize that OU is a focus. You can be a star linebacker here. So we'll see how that shakes out. Then we have offensive guard from South Carolina, I believe his name is Desmond Green. He's huge, 6'5", 340. Been in consistent contact with OU, consistently messaged that OU was in his top schools. OU now gets him in for an official visit. A lot of competition for him from SEC powers and regional powers. So interested to see how that fight goes. But OU obviously looking to bring him in and looking kind of go to the distance with this. Then we have the two pass rushing duo of KJ Ford and Jake Krull, both currently scheduled to come in 6:20 for the Barbecue U weekend. If OU could get these two guys, that would be another great job by Miguel Chavis at defensive end. They kind of complement each other naturally. And if OU can pick up a third defensive end, a bigger guy, that would be ideal. Not quite sure who that would be. Could be Demarion Johnson from Alabama. Could be if Luke Waffle is supposed to come on, or Luke Waffle is supposed to come on campus sometime this spring. His brother just transferred from Michigan to Penn State. But if you could stay in that battle, get an official visit, and if he's seriously considering not playing at the same school as his brother, Luke Waffle just got bumped up by On3. I'm not sure why it took them this long to realize he's a complete beast. He would be a great third defensive end in that class, just would slam it home. It also looks like OU is still in the Tank Carrington battle. The defensive tackle, defensive end from Las Vegas. He's been on OU's campus before, coming back June 6th for that weekend. He would be, I think OU is going to take quite a few defensive ends and defensive tackles. The offers they're making and the guys they're staying in contact with would seem to drive that point home. So we'll see where OU is in the Tank Carrington battle. I'm having a hard time getting a read on how big this kid really is. Is he a defensive end, or can he bulk up and be a 3-tech? So we got to figure that, get that story a little more figured out. Then Noah Best, the offensive guard from Midlothian, is coming on June 6th. I think OU leads here. And then Will Conroy, the offensive guard center from Ohio, who's now at IMG. He's coming on the 20th. He's teammates with Jake Krull, so hopefully that will help OU's efforts there. And I think Best and Conroy would be some offensive guard center guys. Both of them, I think, have that kind of potential. So it's interesting to see if OU can get both of those. And then we've got Ryan Gilbert, who I talked about above. He's June 20th. So were Outdoor Miles and Mason James. So's in-state defensive tackle, I think top 150, elite 3-tech, Taj Overton. He's also going to be on the 20th. Then Chancellor Barkley, the big offensive tackle, right tackle, probably 6'4", 300 from the Florida area. He's in on June 20th as well. OU gets the last shot there as well. And then Toa Katoa, the massive Euless Trinity offensive guard, OU battling SMU's made a run recently, according to some services. I think Texas is floating around, maybe Texas Tech as well. We know they're spending a lot of money. So, again, if he makes it to Norman, I like where OU's chances are. But that's June 6th as well. So that's kind of a long rundown, but a lot. If I had to, rank some of these guys, I would say with Ojo, Hall, Johnson, Eli, Krull, Ford, Carrington, OU's got about Taj Overton, probably borderline there. Tank Carrington, same thing. You're talking about 7 to 9 top 100 players in the country with official visits set to come to Norman. And I think there's more players that are still out there. I think Hatton, the running back from San Antonio who decommitted from OU, I think OU is still roaming around in that battle, and I think he'll probably be back in Norman at some point. Still a lot of names to possibly add there. Davion Gross, I think is top 100 running back, wide receiver guy. I think that's probably a good chance he will make an OU visit. Certainly could add some more names to that list. OU's got offers out there for other top 100 players to make that list even longer. So we'll see how things shake out. But right now, OU's got some momentum. They've got some targets identified. They've got some other players. That's not a complete exhaustive list of the guys. Those are just the guys who lately have published either in interviews, public interviews, public lists on Twitter, or publicly indicating that they're locked in their OU visit. So if you've been concerned about where 2026 recruiting is, I think that's a good bounce right there to say things are moving in the right direction. So OU continues to make 2026 offers at some positions like linebacker and cornerback. I kind of understand that, but OU's made some offers in some other positions which are kind of interesting. Just the other day, I'm recording this on the 25th, late, actually almost the 26th now. We've crossed over midnight Eastern time. So Brian Harris, a big defensive lineman, 6'4", 290, extremely athletic, has just recently received an OU offer. He plays defensive end as well, has serious 3-tech elite type skills. He needs to be developed, but that's probably his future, and that's probably why OU's made the offer. So, can they get him on campus? Lots of people making offers for him. He apparently had a big rivals camp recently where he looked great. So, interesting offer, just another interesting player in the mix. Todd Bates just determined to add D-line depth in this class. Then OU offered Rodney Dunbar from Georgia. He's 6'5", 180 pounds. I'm a little stunned by this offer, considering who OU has in play at wide receiver. Names like Jaden Warren, Davion Gross, Jabari Brady. Just a lot of names at wide receiver. Plus, they've already got a verbal in Odom, and you also got Aljor Miles and Mason James. So it's a lot of people in play at wide receiver. So I'm a little surprised they made the offer. I've watched Dunbar's film. He reminds me a lot of Jaden Gibson out of high school. Big guy, high points the ball, athletic, still growing into his frame, but can consistently beat DBs deep for touchdowns. So it's an interesting offer. OU also offered another defensive tackle from Texas, Keith Doty. He's listed around 6'4", 300 plus. On film, he's kind of a huge run-stopping presence, pretty explosive. A potential comp would be Dejon Terry. So if you could get a Dejon Terry under Todd Bates out of high school and get 3-4 years of production out of him and develop and get him out, that's interesting to me. It's an interesting offer. It tells me OU wants to add at least one big 300 plus defensive tackle. Now I think that might be Valdin Sone, the Swedish defensive tackle that OU's making a focus, who plays ball in Virginia. But if OU could add Doty as well, and you had 2 300-pounders, I'm not really going to complain about that. So he's an interesting offer. Then obviously they offered linebacker Braxton Lindsey out of Arkansas. It's long been rumored that OU was going to offer him, and the offer happened, I believe, last week. Now, Lindsey plays a lot of edge rusher on film. I don't think OU's looking at him at defensive end. I think they want to migrate him to linebacker. So the question I have, and the question OU obviously doesn't have, is OU obviously thinks that he can make the migration to Mike linebacker. He's certainly athletic. If he can laterally move side to side as well as he does north and south pass rushing, then OU's got something here. There's something there for OU to work from. He's got a big frame, interested in a couple of different schools based upon something he posted on Twitter recently. But OU's definitely definitely chasing him, and he would be a nice addition, depending upon what else you got at Will or Mike. I mean, both Illy and Sinceri could play Will, just be beasts at Will as well. They could play Mike as well. So, you've got some potential there in terms of what you could do at linebacker with different guys at different spots. OU continues to make 2027 offers. And the most interesting part about these offers for the most, right off the bat is that so Kevin Wilson has joined OU's coaching staff. And Wilson's expertise at O-line seems like a good fit to help Bill with evaluating film and scouting guys and getting offers out as early as possible once you identify that's someone who should be a player OU should be after. So I think it's very interesting that OU made 4 recent offensive tackle offers right after Wilson's come on board. Wilson's been working for about 10 days as an OU coach based upon everything we know. So the first guy OU offered, is from Utah. His name is Ian Aliosio. He's 6'4", 280. He's rated in the top 20, so I'm not sure how much of an evaluation really that is. Prior to last year, OU had not had much success in Utah. But I think with Darius Afalava now on campus, now you've got some connections and to build with. I'm glad OU's going back and making offers in the 27 class to Utah again, especially at offensive line. OU also offered Albert Simeon, who's from Louisiana. He's 6'5", 280. Based on the film I saw, he could be the top offensive tackle in Louisiana for 2027. OU's not had much luck pulling elite talent from that region when LSU's involved. You know, Brad Davis, the former OU offensive lineman, is the O-line coach at LSU and has done a good job. So we'll see how that all shakes out. OU did make two interesting offers in the sort of the Northeast area. First guy they offered is Sidney Rouleau. He's at a prep school in New Jersey, but he's from, I believe, French Canada. His nickname is Big Sid. And he, you know, if you notice, more and more talents coming from Canada in terms of offense, just in general for football. It just is. You're seeing more and more talented players from, you know, when OU first got, first got Big Canada, their defensive tackle. That was kind of a one-off, but you're seeing it more and more now. He's 6'6", 295. He is a huge, athletic, physical prospect. He's at a good prep school, so he's getting good coaching. It's not the Hun school, but it's a school that's very competitive with them. I think it's called Pennington Academy. He looks really good on film. He's raw, as you kind of would expect, but all the tools, physical, measurable tools are there. And he's got a nasty streak to him. Then we've got Jimmy Kalis, 6'6", 280 pounds from Pittsburgh. Again, there's a similar theme here. He's a big physical offensive tackle, very athletic, plays left, could play right tackle easily, looks really good on film. So those four offensive tackle offers, all good to see, and good to see Bill getting offers out there for 2027 and to build on what he's already done in 2027 with players like Brian Johnson at South Oak Cliff. Then we had two DBs. First one is Havon Finney from California. He's 6'3", 6'2", 180. He plays at Chatsworth, which is a perennial powerhouse. He's an elite-looking punt returner, cornerback, or wide receiver. I think OU wants him at cornerback, and I would be stunned if he's not like a top 50 player in the country at that position. And then OU offered a player from Crawley, the powerhouse North Crawley. It's Elijah Jawan Houston. I probably butchered that. I'm sorry if I have. He's 6'1", 170, and he's playing that classic deep safety position, doing a great job that OU sometimes has a hard time finding. Guys who can truly play deep safety. Some of the safety guys are in high school. They're playmakers, so the coaches have them at the line of scrimmage, and it's hard to get a feel for what will they do in the college game and have to play more of a deep safety position. You don't have to worry that with Houston. Just like Omarion Robinson could play that just beautifully. Houston does a really good job of that. So that offer, and Hall and Valai are always making connections in Dallas. So this is a good offer, really good offer. We'll have to sort of track and see where things will show out with this player down the road. Then their last major offer is they made a 2028 offer. Yes, that guy's a high school freshman. I understand that. But he's from Florida. His name is Asher Giotto. He's 6'5", 240. The only other 2028 D-line offer OU currently has out there is camp superstar and had a fantastic freshman year out in California, Marcus Fakatu. Giotto's film is just as impressive. It's absurd for a high school freshman. So that's the offer kind of recap there. OU aggressively still adding players. More 2027 offers will go out as OU discovers more and more film, especially on the lines. But OU's got a good starting spot there. I'd like if they could get some of those guys I just mentioned on campus for this summer for some summer camp action. It would be good to get some connections going there. So the last bit of news is what's going to drive our recruiting cycle, probably in the next recruiting news cycle in the next 2 weeks, is OU has their Future Freaks event coming up. It's on March 8th. It'll have 26, 27, 28, and it'll probably have some 29 kids on there. At least one. OU made one 2029 offer. Now, that means that kid played middle school football last year. He's 6'4", 180 according to his profile. I'm never going to watch middle school film. It's not going to happen. But Emmett Jones thinks enough of him to make an offer, so I got to think it's legit. He's for real. So getting back to just 4 names to watch for the Future Freaks event. First is Peyton Houston, the 2027 quarterback from Evangel Christian. He's blowing up. He was already highly regarded. OU was recruiting Trey Taylor from the Illinois area. He's dropped OU. So OU looking at Peyton Houston. Lots of competition for Peyton. There are 3 elite quarterbacks in the Louisiana area. Elijah Haven, who LSU seems to be focusing on. There's Peyton Houston. And then there's Malachi Ziegler, who, might be an OU option. Colin Kennedy at 247 kind of was the first person I saw to sort of suggest that maybe OU, if they fall behind on Houston to maybe LSU or Texas, that maybe Ziegler might be a nice player to offer as well. So we'll see. But this will be his first visit to Norman since OU changed offensive coordinators. So OU could jump back in this race seriously if he clicks with Arbuckle, and I can see him doing that. Another couple of names to follow are Devontae Kirkland, a safety from Waco. OU's been after and has made a focus for a while. Then as a 2027 player. Then back to 2028, Mekhi Rhodes, the running back that's been OU a number of times. He looks like he's going to be a top 100, possibly top 50 kind of guy. He's just that skilled. And then a new name for me, Antonio Giral, DB, 5'11", 170, cornerback, wide receiver, athlete kind of guy. His films at all those sort of positions. So he's another prospect to watch. There'll be more and more names, and we'll hit them more with updates as we go on. But I just want to recap some of the bigger names. Primarily Peyton Houston, who is right now the only uncommitted OU QB target. So it's a big week for OU to figure out where they are. I think we could see some other offers come out of that week for 2027 kids, depending upon where OU feels they are with Peyton. But Peyton's having a great camp series, so he could easily be in the 5-star territory as well. All right, that's a lot of names I've hit you with. It's a big recap. Hope everybody enjoys it. We'll be back with more consistent content over the next couple of weeks. Thanks for listening. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast and don't forget to leave a rating. Please visit patreon.com/Sooners360817 to subscribe for more recruiting content on Sooners 360 on Patreon. And the Patreon site directly supports this podcast. It helps me keep this podcast free and helps me keep this podcast going. So please consider giving us a shot over on Patreon. Thanks, everyone.